So again, I really hope I don't run out of space. Um, while I'm filming this, I might, and in that case, I'll just deal with it. But yeah, I want to talk about a phrase that's just come to my mind that is like something I feel like I have reflected on a lot, and I also kind of like the tagline. The tagline or the title or whatever is called Rage and Responsibility, sort of like a play on Pride and Prejudice. If I were more creative or more committed to it, maybe at some point I would write some version of Pride and Prejudice and call it Rage and Responsibility. I don't think I have. Oh, maybe I'll start a timer. I don't think I have 10 minutes worth of. I don't think I have 10 minutes worth of discussion about this, but it's where I want to start. It's what I wanted to say. And if this isn't 10 minutes, then that's okay. But I feel like I feel like anger as a woman is our birthright. And yet we're reinforced throughout our lives to not be angry and to not experience anger and to not express anger. But being a woman comes with so much struggle that men don't experience and all these different things. And so it really feels like, yeah, rage is a natural, rage is a natural reaction to the lived experience of womanhood often. And I think when I think about, along with a vast spectrum of human emotions, but I think like there is a sort of like quintessential bitchiness that comes along with like womanhood. And I think that the bitchiness that seeps through a lot of the time for women on a day-to-day basis comes from not expressing rage or not expressing negative emotions and feeling like one has to be suppressing it. And so there's just this like low level bitch that constantly is in place. And I really hate that. And I'm not that type of person. And so I feel like that makes me someone who I kind of view my emotional life and my emotional self as this valve where I'll like experience it and then let it go and kind of allow myself to feel good times and the joy and not hold on to resentment or anger. And then when I'm angry, I will experience it in the moment and kind of let it out. But I think there's like a responsibility in both, not even just both, there's a responsibility for emotional management and all of it. And as women, the work of emotional management doesn't get any credit as necessary work. And I think there are a lot of women who are very abusive because they have this like low grade bitch or like bitchiness or low grade abusiveness because they're not able to take the space to work through and manage their emotional selves and their emotional lives. And for me, I think, I know I'm saying rage, but it's not just rage, but being able to, taking the time to work through what you're working through and not hold on to it is a form of responsibility to ourselves and to others. And yeah, I just think it's interesting how it all kind of plays out, of how we manage our internal lives and our emotional selves and how we manage and navigate that responsibility. And I do think that as women, we hold more and then therefore we are responsible for more. And a huge effort of feminism is making that experience visible. I think where feminism went astray, I'm gonna, if I can remember, I'm gonna link this podcast that a friend of mine sent me that I really like. And it talks about what happened to feminism in the early 2010s and why a lot of people kind of like turned away from it and why we have this trad wife movement that we have now. among other conservative movements, and yeah, kind of like what went wrong with feminism. And I feel like it just, I mean, there's a lot to that about it getting co opted, which I definitely experienced, and it kind of impacted my identifying with the movement or identifying with modern feminism, if that makes any sense. Um, and this push for equality is like at the heart of what feminism means. And along with the reconciling of the tension that it is kind of impossible to have real equality among the sexes, and just what does that even mean? Equality among the sexes starts to feel like this impossibility that really what does it mean that we're looking for? And I think feminism is sort of better served at what is the bigger picture that is more than just the experience of womanhood, and is more about what is the experience of any minority or any oppressed group. Obviously, I'm not going to get into the experience of white feminism, but yeah, what is that experience? And yeah, making visible the additional responsibility that comes with managing being a woman in a society built by men, maintained by men, and in a society that is trying to mute and ignore the needs of the very real and very different needs of the experience of having a uterus. Yeah. And the rage of that is inevitable. I think it's inevitable to have more emotions to process. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say that that's kind of presumptive to think that all women have more emotions that they have to manage. But I do think that there's a lot of danger in perpetuating an expectation of stifling your emotional spectrum to acquiesce to male systems and patriarchy. And the real responsibility is in being able to create the space and take the space that one needs. Yeah, and extensions beyond the female lived experience or the feminine lived experience. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to go on a tangent, but I don't know. I think there's this tendency to want to, I guess, like, what happens when you remove the biological experience of having a uterus and having a womb? What happens when you remove that from the discussion of the experience of womanhood? Does it always do a service? Because when you think about, I think specifically in the workplace, if my experience of being a woman doesn't have the very real implications of having a uterus, I don't understand how you advocate for a move toward equality when there can be no equality between a male and female lived experience. There can't be equality of that, other than intentionally creating space and intentionally creating space, understanding, and changing systems to make room for the experience of women in traditionally male spaces. You need to talk about having a uterus in order to do that. And I don't think that makes someone a TERF. I don't think that makes you like a trans exclusionist to say that we need to talk about the experience of having a womb, having a vagina, menstruating, pregnancy, menopause. You have to account for those specific experiences in order to move toward equality. And so, I mean, that's like really basic, and I know that we don't have to like, that's like something that shouldn't have to be argued, but in my experience in my workplaces, that still feels like something that needs to be explained and advocated. And so, yeah. It's 10 minutes now. I don't want to keep talking about this, but maybe I'll talk about it more. And I like Rage and Responsibility. Maybe I'll write a screenplay. Probably not. Maybe I'll get AI to write me a screenplay. Anyway, yeah. Bye.